In this section, we're going to talk about the Contact API. The Contact API allows us to interact with the device's contacts. We can create apps that will create new contacts. We can create apps that will read from the contacts, read all your contacts, or just a single group of them. There's a lot you can learn on the documentation page for the Contact API. Its two main methods are contacts.create and contacts.find. And as you probably can imagine, create will create a new contact, and find is to look up your current contacts. And let's see, there's quite a few objects: the name, the field, address, organization. And what we're going to do is just build a simple app to add a new contact. And we're going to add the full name, the note, because you can add note or text with contacts, and an email address. And down here is where you can see all the properties that you can work with when you're dealing with the Contact API. The ID, the display name, nickname, phone numbers. And like phone numbers and emails, those are going to be arrays, because on most smartphones, I know with Android, when you store a phone number, you can have it as the home number or the work or the mobile. So that can take an array, so we can add phone numbers for all three of those. Same thing with emails, addresses. These are all going to be put in as an array. The note is just going to be the note. There's no array. Same thing with birthday, and same thing with the names. So let's actually get into some coding. So I have my blank index page, my config file, my jQuery and jQuery mobile, and my jQuery mobile CSS file. So I'm just going to paste in my starter code, and I want to first create the HTML. So we're just going to create a form. So let's form, and we're going to have a couple labels and inputs. So let's create a label, and we're going to use the for attribute, and this is going to be for first name. And now we need an input, and that's going to be a text field, and it's going to have an ID of first name. Alright, so I'm just going to copy these. And we also want a last name. And an email. Now we want a note. Actually, the note is going to be a text area. Let's see, text area. We're going to give it an ID of note. Alright, so now we want a button. So we're going to say input type is going to be button. The name is going to be save. We're going to give it an ID of save button, and a value of save contact. Alright, so that's our form. Let's save that. Take a look at it. Let me just make sure that we have the right CSS. Alright. So here's our form. Alright. So now we can, actually we don't have a header or anything. Oh, we need to use our jQuery mobile formatting. So let's create a div, and we want to create a data role attribute, which is going to be equal to page, and that's going to wrap everything. And we're going to create a header, so div data role header, and for the header we'll just say add contact. Let's make that an H2. Now we want a data role for content, and a data role for footer. Alright, so that should look a little better. Yeah, so that's much better. Alright, so let's start the JavaScript. So what we want to do is when this button is clicked, we want it to do something. So we're going to use a little bit of jQuery, and we're going to use it inside of the onDeviceReady function, because we don't want anything happening until the device is ready anyway. So we're going to need to use some jQuery, and since we're using it up here before this script, we need to include a document ready. So we'll say document.ready, and inside here we need a function, and now we can type all our jQuery in here. So the button, let's look at the button. Its ID is save btn, so that's what we'll use to grab onto that using jQuery. So it's an ID, so we need a hashtag, and we want save button, and we want to bind a click event. So I'm going to say bind a click event, and when that is clicked, we want a function. And then in here is what we want to happen when it's clicked, and all we want to happen is we want to call another function called save contact. So that's all that's going to do, is call this function. So we're going to write that next. So in here, let's first just do a console log, and we'll just say getting contact info. These console logs you don't need to have these, I just like to have them, it's just good for debugging. Now we need to create variables from input. So everything we input into that form is going to be caught in a variable. So first we have the variable first name, and that's going to be equal to document.getElementById first name, and we need to have a dot value if we want the actual text that's typed in that field. Okay, so we're going to copy this, and we need to do this for all of our fields. So the next one we want is last name. And this here I want to make full name. And to do that, we just need to put the first and last together. So we'll just say first name, and then we want to concatenate. We want to concatenate a space between first and last name. Okay, so next thing we need is the note. Okay, note, and then finally we want the email address. And that ID is email. Alright, so now we have all our variables. We actually want to create another variable, which will be the actual contact object. So that would be, let's just call it the contact, and that's going to be equal to navigator.contacts.create. And inside here we're going to put a JSON value, and this is going to be the display name. So display name, and then we want a colon to separate it, and this is going to be full name. So we want the full name to be the actual display name. So now we want to insert the other variables. Let's do the note field. And this is pretty easy. We're just going to say the contact dot note is equal to note. So it's as simple as that. Now the emails are a little different. We need to send, it takes an array. So we're going to say variable emails, plural, is going to be equal to an empty array. And the first value in emails is going to be equal to a new contact field, and we're going to say email because it's going to be the email field, and then we want the value, which is going to be email address, and then we want to put in here false. And this email address is coming from the actual form. Alright, so let's make a comment here. Alright, so the last thing we need to do in this function is call the save action or save method. So we say the contact.save. And we can leave it as is, but we can also put some callbacks. And if we leave it like this, when the person saves it, it's not going to do anything. So we want something to let the user know that it's been saved. So let's do the success callback. We'll say on save success, and we need on save error. So let's create that success function. Say contact added, Let's do a console log, and we'll say contact saved. Now that's just the console log. We should also do an alert, because the console log is basically for us. They're not going to see that. So we'll just alert your contact has been saved. So if there's an error, then onSave error is going to be called, and that's going to take a parameter called error. Whoop, we forgot function. And this is going to just alert us. We'll alert error, and then we'll concatenate on the code, error.code. Alright, we should actually, we'll also console log this. Console.log. Alright, so that'll do it. Let's push this to our GitHub repository. Let's see, we'll add, commit, push, add my email address. Alright, so let's go to PhoneGap build, and we want to pull the latest repository. Wait for the APK. I'm going to plug my device in. Alright, so all the files are generated. Let's download the APK. We'll overwrite the current one, and then we need to go to, whoops, that's not what I want. Let's go to our downloads and copy that file, the APK, copy. Alright, now we need to go to computer, Droid. I'm going to delete what's there now and paste in the new APK. So now all we need to do is install this with the APK installer on the device and run it, which I'll do in the next video.